Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar. I don't know if I'm debating around the idea of Asmongolding the title. Ooh, I've been cancelled. But to be real with you ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to do a little bit of a debrief on one of the more controversial videos I uploaded in my entire career on this channel. Now, as some of you know, 5 days ago I uploaded a video talking about an internet person known as Keffals, where I looked into their history and looked into a lot of the shady history, and it was about an hour and 33 minutes of actual, looking into a past, gathering all of the receipts, and putting it together in a concise video. Something I will say I enjoyed really putting together, okay? I love making long-form videos like that, in amongst the daily goofs and the gaffes that we have over here, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, since then, I have uploaded the video, and it's done pretty positively. It's got around, I think, 95.9% likes to dislike, like the ratio itself, which compared to my average of 98% shows that even with the controversy, a grand majority of the people watching on my channel really did enjoy it. And it's one of those types of videos that I like to make. Now, to understand, I make videos on tons of controversial subjects all the time. And in fact, some of my most favorite videos were videos where I made them on Save the Kids, alongside Coffee Solo, the whole Rubets investigation, working on The Completionist with Carl Jobst, and then of course, doing this. I love covering this kind of stuff because looking into these stories and actually making waves, and what I believe is making a difference and informing individuals is something I like doing, okay? Now, since that video's release, there's been some criticism, and none of it surprisingly on the video's content of itself. In fact, ever since this video has come out, there's been a small but somewhat vocal minority of people that have come out and labeled me as a transphobic individual, going as far as to label my wife, who is in an interracial relationship with me, a neo-Nazi. In fact, I found out that because of me having an Indian past, I might be a little bit more Aryan than one would expect. Now, I shouldn't have to preface this. Honestly, no creator should really have to go out and spell this out, but to anybody watching, I think all Nazism, I think all these kind of evil ideologies are bad, okay? Again, here's the wildest thing about this situation, okay? To think that I'm going to pander to a group of people that would call me a poo in the loo in any normal capacity is actually brain dead, okay? I have a lot more self-respect than doing that. Now, at the same time, anybody that's hitting at me with maybe, ooh, Muda enjoys a little edgy joke here and there, I come from an old school 4chan era where, anything goes on certain sites on the internet. So if some of those jokes kind of come out and they may be a little bit crass, it's not coming from a place of hate. It's just because that's the era I'm from. And you know what? Over the last few years, I have genuinely tried to kind of correct myself to be a little more inclusive on this channel, and so to speak. But anyways, to go back to the whole idea of, Nazism and transphobia and all that, I think it's actually quite insulting. For anybody that would even claim on some of these boards, I remember when Muda used to read those creepypastas. That was in the Paleolithic era, dog, but thank you. But if you're one of those people who are like, I remember when he was on the deep web browsing, why can't we go back to some of that? Well, it's because over 200 episodes, you kind of tap out all the content you can. But if you were an active viewer, you would realize that anytime I came across, Nazi content or anything really evil, actual racist behavior, transphobic behavior, I would sit down and actually make fun of that behavior, okay? I would really actually make fun of evil ideologies like that, because I think you should make fun of ideologies like that and really let people know how stupid they are. But again, I'm kind of speaking to a group of people that I can never appease, so there's no real reason for me to go down in this regard. But I feel like it's important to mention why I am not any form of Nazi or transphobe or anything of that nature. I think all of that ideology is evil, and when it comes to my community, I welcome everyone. As long as you're not a criminal, a defrauder, a scammer, an actual pile of garbage that is committing actual felonies and crimes, then, for the most part, I'm cool with people in my community interacting with each other, and I'll advocate and fight for anybody in my community that just wants to be. But yeah, I feel like hitting these things head on is important. I'd rather address this stuff instead of let it fester. Now, the other bit of controversy for me comes out from using an artist that apparently has been branded as transphobic. Now, the thumbnail for the video had me and the target, in this case Keffals, looking quite sweaty and disheveled and whatnot. Now, the reason for this art was I had simply commissioned an artist whose style I liked. If you look at an image of me that this person drew months ago, it looks like a character that's kind of like out of Hotline Miami. You can kind of see it in the conversation box. Thought it was cool. This artist has covered numerous people, and it was just recommended to me by Tom, Willie Mack, and people, who he worked for. So I had paid him about $100, just a little commission work. The guy's return was pretty quick. We're talking like 24 to 48 hours, and that was pretty much the end of that. The conversation we had was pretty brief. I asked him just to make me a piece of this individual, and that's pretty much the end of it. Now, the people who were zooming into every single aspect of this art, trying to find elements of transphobic caricatures, which is literally a term that was used, is a little bit more self-reporting on these individuals, considering that and from my personal, conversations, had no actual intention of anything. This person drew me for Christ's sake, and I liked it enough to hire him on to draw an artist. Now, obviously, some would say, why would you draw the subject of your critical piece on them in an unflattering light? Dog, am I gonna dig out fucking Michelangelo and resurrect him to make everyone look good? Get out of here. Now, this is somebody that I would have absolutely gotten into the future, would have absolutely contracted again, but because of the actual harassment they had received on the internet, they privated their accounts and, from my understanding, are receding from the art world, which is a pretty sad element and something that, it's actually a net loss in this grand scheme of things. Now, there has been people who have looked into this individual's post history, and some of it has been on Kiwi Farms, and I had no idea of any of these kind of postings. Again, my relation to this was strictly professional and transactional. I hired somebody to make art, and that art seemed to work off, because in this situation, Keffals had actually responded to this piece of art with some pretty shitty criticism. Watch this. As soon as I released this video, Keffals' response to this was, I understand people have criticisms of me. I don't think that I'm above being critiqued. That said, was it really necessary to use a transphobic caricature of me in the thumbnail while also not using my pronouns in the video announcement? Now, the pronouns were kind of shocking because basic English would teach me that I used her, and if anything, I used they. Now, just to delineate from the pronoun point, I have to ask the question, if my video is focusing on actual serious, mentions of monetary mishandling of GoFundMe money or charity money, why is that not addressed in this initial response, but actually the thumbnail, which I guess is apparently allegedly this transphobic caricature, which it's not, and then the misuse of pronouns, which, by the way, people had found out, no, I actually used all the right ones. It's like, why are we not addressing the actual serious elephants in the room? Why are we just deviating to the most nonsense points? And what makes this an even more confusing issue is the fact that she also used the same art on her own videos in her own thumbnails. So all of a sudden when I use it, the guy is producing transphobic caricatures, but when you're using it, it's suddenly okay. The whole point of the art was to make the subject look disheveled. That's about it. That's as deep as it actually goes. Now, one of the reasons for me making a video about Keffals in the first place was, you gotta understand, as somebody that covers internet stuff in general, on my internet content dartboard, there's plenty of topics that exist, okay? This just happened to be the most controversial one. Now, Keffals is an individual that had basically garnered a lot of attention for the last 2 years, and their story is quite complicated, to the point that nobody really was able to discuss it in the best faith possible. It was a situation where we had to amalgamate a lot of the information over the course of months in order to build a video that could actually be, something that would be viewed by somebody that had no idea of the situation anyways, and they could come to an actual proper conclusion themselves. The one piece of controversy that I feel is probably the best deserved is my actual failure here to reach out to one of the people that I brought into this story as well. Now, this is Femgirl VR, one of the people that I had brought into the Catboy Ranch segment of the video. Now, in this entire section, I basically had, the only reason I'm making this is because the actual person did come out and say that they didn't appreciate me low-key implying that they were groomed in any capacity. Now, I'm going to go back and fall into the original video that I made and basically state that I have in no way basically said that the entire interaction between the Catboy Ranch account or her was implicative or actually definitive of anything grooming related. In fact, a portion of my video was even dedicated to talking about false grooming allegations being used to paint this community, the trans community in specific, as a toxic or an evil community in general. And that is a problem. That is something that does happen. But in this situation, my whole point was to showcase an entire chain of events. If you have an adult-oriented board, you shouldn't be interacting with anybody who at the time is a minor like this. Now, obviously, I'm not here to look at this person and say, shut up, you're wrong. That's not necessarily the case. This is actually well-deserved criticism, and next time, it is worth it to go out and get the message from everyone. Or again, I guess, put out an entire warning in the video, both visual, maybe even auditory, to remind them that this is not implicative of something that is a serious crime. I would never outright say that somebody would be grooming somebody. That is a very serious allegation. And while there are channels that are pretty laissez-faire with how they put the whole groomer tag on people, this is not something I do on this channel. That whole section of the video is to showcase that the interaction between an adult and minor is not right. Had I interacted with somebody like this in my comment section, this would be called out by any other channel in the same way. And it's just not professional behavior. And that's where it was kind of leading up to. And to talk about the separation between under 18 accounts and over 18 accounts and so on and so forth. There is no grooming, and I have made no allegation thereof, and that would be pretty wild to make an allegation of in the first place. It is entirely meant to showcase a interaction that should not have ever taken place to begin with, between anybody over the age of 18, well into their 20s, and somebody who is not yet a legal adult. All right, so some boards over here is like Muda's wife claims that accusations of neo-Nazism are baseless. So again, my wife, Jen, she actually liked a few posts of people, sarcastically saying, wow, I guess you must be the best Nazi in the room, being with Muda, an Indian guy, for crying out loud, okay? And of course, in this situation, some of the craziest comments that I read was, the cognitive dissonance of a Nazi being in an interracial relationship, LMAO. Smartest rightoid couple. Most white supremacists do, either from fetishism or a superiority complex. You'd be surprised to know that there are some neo-Nazis or supremacists who refine with being in interracial relationships because they view their spouses as one of the good ones, or view their relationships as replacing the race genes with white people if they have offsprings. Which is kind of such an insane thing to read because we take shit from crazy individuals on the other extreme end all the time. You know how many motherfuckers exist that post memes of just not us directly, but like a white couple and like a brown couple and absolutely I guess you could say deformed children, so to speak, implying that our genetics are going to deform kids. It's an insane insinuation to bring up. And it's like, you read comments like this and you think to yourself, man, these people are fucking insane. There is no criticism of the actual video. In fact, if anything, they just jump to the most insane shit. Now, don't worry, Jen was absolutely defending herself, as she should, on the internet against some of the craziest people out there. And if she does partake in some crazy jokes, I'll be the first one to tell you, we are an anti-Nazi household. I have spent my entire career crapping on Nazis. If you were a follower of my content versus somebody that pretended to be, you would realize that anytime we were even on deep web browsing, anytime I would come across racist websites, I would absolutely shut them down by making fun of them. Because that's what you do with insane Nazis. You make fun of them and you shut them down in front of the world, okay? You don't replicate or bring their beliefs, you shit on them outright. Now, I'm going to do a little thing that I don't normally do, and I'm going to read a whole comment from start to finish, just to bring up how brain dead the discourse was around this video. Again, nothing to do with that video. Here, I'm going to read. I have to blur out the name just because the stupid ranch is real. Though alt-rightoids ideologically err in marrying non-Aryans like Semites, Latinx, and Sub-Saharan Africans, Muda and her are a fairly Aryan couple, and I believe Hitler would approve. Crash course on race theory follows. Amateur racists always screw up on this because they're culturally appropriating terms from noble German racism into vulgar American racism. AKA white is good, everything else is bad. Blonde hair and blue eyes are Nordic Aryans. Jen does not have blue eyes, by the way. But among the Aryans, we have diversity, our strength. Krish, Rasant, I'm not even going to pretend. Half of you guys mess up Indian words. Whatever. Require you to understand PIY and the Aryan migrations. Some Afghanis, English, Celts, Iranians, Iran comes from Aryan, by the way, Japanese honorary, and plenty of other brown hair, brown-eyed, even darker-skinned people, like Italians, are Aryans. Muda is part Aryan because Brahmins are upper caste Indians. Which is funny because I'm pretty sure I've told people that I am Muslim, not in the Hindu section. Again, it shows you the level of racism from this jackass, where he assumes just because I'm from India, I am suddenly Hindu all of a sudden. Maybe look up the country first, okay? But anyways, the Indians come from Indo-Aryan people that derive. Arya is Sanskrit for noble. Though the NSDAP stance on this was Indians have intermixed too much to be pure Aryans, they nonetheless have Aryan blood. So while they may be an interracial couple, Dojangles married Muda because of his Aryan ancestry. This is proven when she talks about the 23andMe test she had him do before dating. Now, I want somebody to... This is like an example. This is a very serious claim. Please find a timestamp of her claiming anywhere in a tweet that she made me do a 23andMe test. I've never fucking done it. I've never given up my genetic data, and neither is she to Google or anyone. You know what the fuck my genetic history would probably be? 99.9% Indian boy. What the? Now, where she found Vedic Aryan blood in him, i.e. founder Aryan, her explication of this means she follows NSDAP racialism, obviously a cultured woman. Indians such as Muda were immensely desirable in the Third Reich. God damn! Well, this is why I don't take Reddit seriously, okay? Because this is what happens when you stay unemployed too fucking long. You start doing shit like this. Oh man, I needed that, dude. I swear to God. There hasn't been a goddamn comedy special that's been this fucking funny for a goddamn while, dude. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now, I didn't expect the video to be making some crazy waves, but it actually did in the sense that one of the larger publications, TYT, which I guess is mainstream enough to be showing up in Google News recommendations, ended up using portions of my video as a correction for their own actual reporting. And they even called on other actual, like, big publications to offer retractions. Now, I haven't seen this, so I don't know what the effort of this, what they have said entirely in this 18-minute piece. But to understand, this is a story that when I covered, I like to look at the facts of a situation, right? Beyond all of the crazy controversies, there is truth that hides in these videos. And I'm not here to get a response out of anybody or whatnot. What I am here is to lay out the truth. And it took me 1 hour and 33 minutes to do so, and I feel like I did a good enough job. Now, for any other organization or journalist group out there that ran with the Drop Kiwi Farm story without understanding all of the facts, should offer some form of retractions. And we did put our utmost research into covering this story because at the end of the day, okay, I have had my own mistakes. I have made mistakes in coverage in the past. And mistakes, they happen. You know, it's a human situation. But when covering a story, some of you may remember when I covered Ethan Klein, and I made a big blunder. And ever since then, it takes a lot to basically pass through the editing shelf. There will be mistakes, and who knows, in the future you may have to issue a retraction from even here. But when covering these kind of stories, it's about objectivity and it's about reaching for the facts. And that's one of the things that we really do aim for on this channel. Now, and beyond all of this too, there were other people in this community, the trans community, that came out and did talk about this as well. For instance, one individual known as Star Oxvia actually made a long thread discussing another angle of the financial kerfuffle that Keffals had with the GoFundMe money. And that's kind of what this whole situation boils back down to. Look, at the end of the day, there was some controversy in this situation, but looking into the whole Keffals' story in regards to the GoFundMe, a GoFundMe that is still active to this day, by the way. This is a GoFundMe that you can still donate to. In fact, right now, you can still see that Muda donated $5 8 days ago, okay? So to understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those situations where if you are somebody that has felt that you donated to this and you feel that this fundraiser actually is, there is some malfeasance behind it, which seems to be a pretty strong case ever since I've covered it and plenty of other people have covered it, then it's one that I would recommend if you have donated to and you do feel wrong, you can always report. And that might be the best possible case out there. Now, I guess it's time to end this video with, like, just the final closing thoughts. I never have ill will towards anybody that I ever cover in a video, okay? I think generally most people can reform and do the right thing, provided they haven't broken some crime that, it's hard to come back from. I think people like Keffals, if they refunded their money and truly apologized to the community that they represent, the trans community, then all can basically turn around and turn their life into the better, okay? But at the end of all this, right, one of the big key concerns that I have is financial malfeasance. People that I talk to in this situation that constantly bring up things like, Muda, this is just drama. Are you covering this because you're a drama channel or something? It's funny because the people that I cover, who are my friends in this space, right, or used to be. People like The Completionist is just one example. Who'll tell me in a call, Muda, I love your content. I love when you cover stuff like Logan Paul and whatnot, or like you cover actual scams. And the moment my crosshairs turn to them, then I'm a fucking drama channel. Then I'm just like, ooh, TMZ. Even though that we're bringing like actual facts, receipts, interviews, we're doing the best that we can in this situation. These are things that I want to address, and with people like Keffals, I wish the actual criticism was strong. I wish people could criticize the actual video versus delineating it to a thumbnail or, allegations of my significant other being a neo-Nazi, which are completely unfounded, okay? It's just hilariously dumb. But again, to situations like this, I think the real harm and the real implication is this isn't drama to me. This is something where actual money and actual harm is caused. Now, the money that in this situation, $101,343, which may or may not be appropriated properly, this is something that needs to be addressed. And for a community of people, the trans community specifically, where resources don't grow on a tree, okay? There's not like a, here's your $1 million check, go ahead. There are people in this community that suffer from homelessness, ostracization from their communities, their families, sometimes their friends, people who going homeless can absolutely ruin the rest of their lives or a good chunk of their life if they don't have the right resources and the right people there at the right time to assist them at their lowest. This kind of money can be life-changing for a whole group of activisms, for a whole, slew of activism, or to actually get people on their feet. Keffals has misappropriated this money as far as what we've seen, what we believe to have seen, and it's money that could be used for much better reasons or much better cases. And while I don't care if she responds to me, I don't give a shit about any of that, I do believe she owes her community and the trans community some form of actual transparency in this situation. And maybe that'll come, maybe it won't. But ladies and gentlemen, yeah, nuke dropped, and I wanted to talk about it because it has been one of my most controversial videos. It was actually something that I was a little bit worried releasing, but thankfully everything turned out to be pretty well and good. Now, honestly, after all of this, looking through my Reddit and looking through people talking about, I want kind of Muda that covers the deep web or haunted gaming back. And it's one of those things that I address. After covering this, it's not that I'm going to stop covering it. This kind of stuff really genuinely interests me and sparks my eyes, as some of you can tell. But I do feel after covering this, I need something on a Sunday that lightning rods my channel into one specific theme. And maybe it's time deep web browsing comes back for good on Sundays. Maybe we go from episode 200 all the way to episode 400. Because the internet is growing weirder by the minute. Or maybe it's time to actually go across and, cover things in the haunted gaming world again. There's so many games that come out that are actually creepypasta oriented. Recently, I played a game, No Players Online, which I absolutely enjoyed, and I kind of would love to cover those, not from a Let's Play perspective, but maybe from the same perspective that I did the Keffals video, which is a video essayist perspective. It seems like the content does really well on my channel, and I wonder if that's what you guys would like to see somewhat in the future. This is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.